From the gridiron to the diamond, this is more than X's and O's. This is your best Florida sports podcast with CBS 12 News sports director John Evenson and producer extraordinaire Sam Sullivan.
Episode 4 of the Best Florida Sports Podcast.
Who are you? Who's this guy?
I can't confirm I am not producer extraordinaire Sam Sullivan.
You got a beard, similar beard, no mustache. So that's the difference. No mustache, and that he's Max Shepman.
That's true.
Yeah.
I know I have a little bit of mustache growing, but we'll trim that up soon.
You will notice the decibel level on this particular episode, which is episode 4, will be on average a lot higher than you're used to. Because
high energy guys.
We are the two loudest guys in the newsroom at CBS 12. I think if you did a poll, it would be neck and neck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
High energy.
But Max knows his football. I'll tell you that much.
I try.
He has the league pass. He watches all the games. I just get to watch like the Dolphins game every week. But you watch all the games.
I'm the classic American guy. When it's NFL Sunday, I have a beer in front of me.
Yeah.
I have Red Zone. Shout out to YouTube TV for having the quad box.
Just one beer? You just nurse it
one
all
at a
day?
time.
Oh, okay.
Jeez,
Okay.
Evenson,
I haven't had a beer and
We're
watched a game in a
We're
while.
allowed to have a couple on Sundays. It's fine.
Bye week. Bye week's coming up. I can come over to your place.
Perfect. We can discuss Dolphins football.
Steelers, I think it'll be that week for you. Right?
That's fine.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that too.
Yeah.
We'll discuss it all.
So, man, listen, it's just, so you get to be part of the grand tradition this season so far. We have not had the opportunity, Sam Sullivan and I so far, to start a show, Best Florida Sports Podcast, without there being some horrible news on and off the field. There's always something. I thought we've
never started on a positive light.
We have not. I mean, we try. I try. You being here is positive, but then now we got to go.
But the news part of this. First, it's Tyreek getting arrested.
Yeah.
Then the Tua thing.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we have breaking news to start this show.
Not to mention the games themselves, but we'll get into that a little bit. Yeah. So Wednesday, right after the locker room availability for the media, Jaelan Phillips drops it on social media. He's gone for the season. He injured his knee in that Monday night game, has to have reconstructive knee surgery, partially torn ACL, same leg that he had the Achilles injury on last year, that he spent the whole offseason rehabbing for. Second straight year, his season has been cut short. And
you got to feel for the guy. He's
so devoted. He just is such a warrior. I think it was like a half sack in that first game that he was in. He just let it all out and roared. He was so happy to be back in action. And actually, a couple weeks ago, he posted another social media thing on his Instagram, I believe, that talked about depression, and he was sharing with everybody about his mental state when he doesn't have a good game or he's having a tough day with rehab.
He takes it very personally.
He wanted to help. Yeah, so he's just a really caring guy who is very open about everything he goes through. And once again, my gosh, you got to feel for him. The edge rushers season is done.
So I was at the game in person, was able to be there in person.
Yeah, so what was it like from the fans' perspective? We'll move on to that because 31-12 loss to the Titans.
Well, first off, with Jaelan Phillips, obviously, you saw him get up a little gimpy. I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just like a rolled ankle. He'll be fine. And then you saw the frustration of the helmet throw.
I was going to say.
And that's when you really know, kind of like as a fan, like if they are having that reaction, you know it's pretty serious. So like once in the stands, like once you saw Jaelan throw his helmet down, everybody's like, oh boy, this might not be as simple as like, hey, I just need a drive off or something like that.
And it was friendly fire. It was Jordan Poyer hit his leg.
Right.
And he actually got back into the action, made a big time defensive play before deciding, I think in the third quarter, that he just couldn't play on it anymore. He must have been running on adrenaline.
Yeah.
And then they were, doing tests to try to see if he could play this week, and the worst case scenario came up. So all the best to him.
All the best.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
So now we got the rookie.
With other bad news.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you kind of look at the depth of the Dolphins.
Oh, that bad news. This is going to take a while to break down.
Obviously, you got Chop Robertson.
Oh, at his position, we're talking.
Position?
Yeah, Chop Robinson. So good thing they drafted him, right? And he's been making strides. Later on in the show, I'll have a one-on-one with Chop Robinson. Emmanuel Agba, of course, they brought him back after releasing him in the offseason. Another rookie, Mohamed Kamara. So and hopefully Bradley Chubb can come back soon. And just like Tua Tagovailoa, he could be the savior of the edge rushers.
But the problem with that is you put all these depth guys together. Mm-hmm. There's like zero experience between those guys.
Yeah.
So you're literally throwing these guys who you thought would be patient, work their way into the system, the games, and you're just like you got to go for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Phillips is still going to be involved in coaching them up.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely.
That's just in his DNA, just like Tua.
Yeah. So we'll have to see how that goes.
I was curious from your standpoint because I was in the quiet, kind of depressing late in the game. The media lounge, everyone just kind of taking in everything there, but you don't get to really feel the vibe. I was looking down. I saw people leaving pretty early. The Boo Birds were out more than I've ever seen them. A 31-12 loss to the Titans. They were 0-3 coming in. They couldn't get the offense going at all with Tyler Snoop Huntley.
Brutal.
What were you hearing? What were you overhearing from the fans? What was the vibe down there?
So kind of like what you said, there was a lot of Boo Birds, and they came out like a lot earlier than you would think. Again, I think like going to the game, like I think if you had any high expectations of like high level football, not only because Snoop making the start, it's only been there a cup of coffee.
2 weeks.
A cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have Will Levis, the Tennessee starting quarterback. He's been a turnover machine. So like coming into this game, if you thought there was going to be high level quarterback play, big mistake.
There was Mason Rudolph, though, former or current Steelers fan Max Shepman. I mean, that's your former guy, right? He was hyped up.
When he came into the game, all I could think about was like the legend of Mason Rudolph continues. Because as being a Steelers fan, he helped the Steelers last year make the playoffs after coming in after an injured Kenny Pickett. Mitch Trubisky obviously didn't work out well.
And he looks like Sidney Crosby to a T.
A little bit. He's a handsome
perfect
guy.
For Pittsburgh.
Handsome guy.
Yeah.
He is a handsome guy.
Yeah. When he smiles, there's like a ding, like a little
Well,
light
so also
shine,
like with this matchup, you saw Mason Rudolph and Tyler Huntley. I was like, oh man, this is Steelers-Ravens all over again. How could you not do that? But
it felt like a preseason game. That reminds me of that vibe that I had when I'm watching this game. It was like two teams, not quite. It looked like they were just working through things, trying to figure out who they were. Like that preseason vibe where you turn off the TV in the second quarter because you're like, enough. Yeah, and this was a regular season game.
I have a theory on this.
Yeah.
I think overall, offensive play around the league is not been great.
He watches all the games. I told you.
Told you. I think what the problem is I think like since the majority of teams they don't play their starters at all in the preseason.
It's hard, man, to get up to speed.
It's like they take the first month of the season to like really get accustomed to like, okay, this is like regular season game action. Mm-hmm. So with that being in mind, I think you're seeing some of the sloppiness not only around the league, but also in this game on Monday night.
So it even further emphasizes Tyler Snoop Huntley coming in. We'll talk about the whole backup quarterback decisions in the offseason thing, but with him coming in after 2 weeks, I mean, yeah, he went through another team's training camp, the Ravens, but for him to get to know this Mike McDaniel, this complex offense, it did not look great out there at all. He really, that it started off with the backward pass to Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill looked a little lackluster trying to go for that ball. I still don't understand what happened there, but it was an instant turnover, and that kind of set the precedent for the game, right?
Well, I think when you look at it, you on your fourth quarterback, it's really up to the playmakers to help out the offense.
That's frustrating.
So with the
Waddle.
Tyreek thing, it's like, okay, like maybe he didn't think it was a backwards pass, but like you still got to give the effort of like, because you never know. We've seen wilder things in the National Football League.
It was a bad look. Yeah, and so was not talking to the media after about it too.
That doesn't help either. Doesn't help either. Obviously you could tell how frustrated he was on the sidelines, which doesn't. I understand the man's a competitive dude, but like doesn't necessarily help the situation of okay, like I need to start trying to make some plays for this offense.
Yeah.
A couple other things that we saw we can dive into a little bit too is like, the first drive in the third quarter, Jalen Waddle had a easy completion, dropped it. Next thing you know, they go for a punt.
It's baffling to me how they cannot utilize these two big money guys, these most talented guys, receivers, Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and hopefully Snoop Huntley, one extra week heading to New England. They could start to look like a normal offense again. Let's hear what they said after the game.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating. We definitely better than what we showing out there on game day. We ultimately go out there for game day. So to not have, the success that we put in and work for every week, definitely frustrating.
I felt pretty good. I felt pretty comfortable. Just now I got to dig in deeper and just know the ins and outs of the offense, and it'll take our offense to another level.
So obviously you heard Snoop talk about digging more into the offense, And, when you come in this tough situation, it's tough to grasp the playbook. But I think we've kind of come to understand that, like, when Mike McDaniel kind of helped put this offense together, it really was exclusively for Tua.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. Everything, the quick decision making, the accurate passing. When we asked him in the a couple weeks ago about whether the offense was going to be strong enough, he's like, I get those passes off quick, brother. Like he knows that that's how he works, and to just throw someone else in there. And Tyler Snoop Huntley, I asked him on Wednesday in the locker room if the New England game was going to be more, are we going to see him with just a greater grasp of the playbook, or are we going to see a more basic playbook that more suits him? And he didn't even pause. He said it's going to be the same playbook, me knowing it better. But I question that a little bit because a lot of people are calling for McDaniel to maybe change
Tone
things
it down
up
a little bit.
Well, change it up to suit Snoop.
Well,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like he's a
exactly.
mobile guy. He's a different type of quarterback. Maybe he doesn't have to be so complex. And what run and gun? I mean, you got Tyreek Hill and Waddle. Chris Perkins has a good theory on why they've been shut down lately coming up. But maybe just simplify it a little bit because he's only been there 3 weeks and he's a good quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think like. I heard Tyreek today talking about, him understanding, it's a complex offense. There's a lot of motions, a lot of terminology and stuff like that.
How many of those penalties did we see with the shifts?
Hold on a second. Hold on, wait, yeah.
Penalty, another one?
Illegal shift.
That just happened?
Yeah, absolutely.
I moved my hands wrong.
Shift.
Sorry, okay.
5 yards
I'll put
back.
them in
5 yards back. Well, that's one thing.
Want me to get back? No.
Well, that's one thing that kind of falls into like playmakers playing plays as well. Being set on the line. Because how many? I think there was at least 2 of the illegal shifts that took back a first down.
Yeah.
So
there was like 3 in one drive, I think.
So that leads me to my point is like, okay, like if Snoop is not 100% on, I don't want to say on board, but comprehensive, like, okay, like these are all the motions.
Yeah.
Then maybe you dumb it down for a week. You get with him. What are you comfortable with? Like, whatever.
Yeah.
And obviously, we talk about Mike McDaniel being an offensive genius.
Yeah.
Dumbing it down to like, okay, like let's get a drive starter going.
Yeah.
Let's get him out of the pocket.
I don't even like the
pocket.
terminology dumb it down. I just like the terminology like you don't have to be like so complex and fancy and offensive guru-ish until Tua comes back.
You almost want it to be like almost like a game manager.
Yes.
Game manager.
Yeah.
Just don't mess it up. And again, I think that also falls on like the stars having to make plays, but also Mike McDaniel, again, like have some rollouts.
Yeah.
Throw a couple quick screens. Obviously, like they tried it with Tyreek, didn't work out that one.
Yeah.
But like running back dump downs, wide receiver screens, like things that make it easy to get Snoop in the groove of understanding the offense.
McDaniel is not a dumb guy, obviously, super smart guy. I think we may actually see more of that in New England. And Chris Perkins has some theories on why this offense may need a total overhaul as far as not player-wise, but just the way the playbook is written up. Let's see what Perk has to say. We are joined now by Sun Sentinel Dolphins columnist Chris Perkins, and you've said it to me. You want to cover a winning team. We all do. But you have been, killing it the last few weeks because you've been helping Dolphin fans, I think, because there's an overriding anger that's kind of rising here. Yeah. Maybe we don't really understand, or the fans don't understand exactly what it is they're angry at, specifically, other than the losses are piling up here. But you've been helping us with your very blunt articles over the past couple of weeks. I think last week, it was, the team's not as not fun anymore. We don't even have that. Yeah. And now you're a little worried that this offense might have run its course.
Yeah, look, one of my things has always been that this offense is about two things: Tyreek Hill and the threat of Tyreek Hill. But now teams have figured this out. And since late last season, the Dolphins offense has really been struggling to score. And I think you can track it back to that one play against Tennessee when Tyreek got hurt. And ever since then, the offensive production has been down. The Dolphins in their last 7 games are 1-6, and they've averaged 12 points per game. The one game that they won, John, as you know, was Jacksonville, when Tyreek had 130 yards receiving. Those other 6 games, he's been held to fewer than 100 yards receiving, and the offense has struggled.
Yeah, and you compared it kind of like to the Wildcat offense that everyone was so into. Yep. I'm guessing maybe 2016, 2017, it started to fizzle out a little bit, and people started to, wasn't as effective as it was.
Yeah, and I think there's a parallel that can be drawn here, because the Wildcat, I think, was like 08, and by 2010 it was figured out.
Right. That's way longer than I remember, but you're right. I'm losing track of the years.
Yeah, that's all right. The years fly by, man. The years fly by. Yeah. But the Dolphins, 2022 is when Mike McDaniel took over, and the offense was just startling people. Nobody knew how to defend it. Last season, teams started to catch up to this offense a little bit, and as I said, late in the season, they kind of got figured out. But you went up to Buffalo last year, a week after scoring 70 here against Denver, you went up to Buffalo and only scored 20. Yeah. And then against Kansas City and Germany, only 15. And then at Philly, I think it was 17 points. And each of those games, Tyreek was held down, and teams began to figure out, if we keep the 2 safeties deep and prevent that deep throw, we can really reduce Tyreek's effectiveness. That's carried on into this season.
So if a team has the arsenal and they've got the defensive smarts, they can shut this thing down completely, as we've seen. Do you know why? Can you put it into context why Mike McDaniel has been, for lack of a better word, a little bit stubborn here in keeping this offense that was created for Tua Tagovailoa intact, rather than simplifying things a little bit with like 3 different quarterbacks now, and it's not working for them?
Yeah, I can't figure this out. For example, they got Jonnu Smith, the athletic tight end, for situations great and small. So against Seattle, they're down on the 6-yard line, and Jonnu Smith never comes into the game for those plays. They had Julian Hill.
It baffles us even before the play.
Yeah,
why is this person not out here, and why are we seeing this and no one else?
Yeah. And here's one of the things is that I think that inside that building and on that coaching staff, somebody has to kind of nudge Mike McDaniel and say, hey, let's try it this way, or why don't we try this? And I don't know if he doesn't listen or if he's stubborn, but it's not getting through.
Now, part 2 for Huntley coming up against the Patriots. Did you see anything in the Tennessee loss that gives you hope, other than the fact that the Patriots themselves have only scored an average of 13 points a game, and maybe they're a pretty bad team?
Well, you know what? I think Mike McDaniel is going to be all the hope that's offered here for Snoop Huntley. Can he get Snoop Huntley to use his legs? And I could even cut Mike McDaniel a little slack for last week. Maybe you were thinking, well, we can't risk him being injured. Tim Boyle is the backup, and I don't trust Tim Boyle. That's not going to fly this week in New England. You have to play to Snoop Huntley's strengths, and one of those strengths is running the ball. So some RPOs, run pass options, have him roll out. There's got to be a way to combine Snoop Huntley's skills with what Tyreek does best and what the defense is giving you to get that ball to Tyreek Hill. He's your best option on offense.
How much of the Dolphins coming out and looking utterly unprepared or in over their heads? I mean, a lot of them you could just say, like, well, the quarterback situation, but I mean, we saw Tua in the first 3 quarters in the Buffalo game, didn't look that great either. How much of this do you think goes along with the philosophy that was made clear in training camp, that this is, a players team, and putting the empowerment into the players' hands.
Yeah, look, when we look at this team and we look back to some of the comments that are made about, this is going to be a players' team and not Mike McDaniel's team. We heard Tua saying that. We look at some of the things last year. You remember when Mike McDaniel said he gave Tyreek Hill the final say on whether Eli Apple would sign with the Dolphins because he knew that Eli had some beef with Tyreek online. All this player empowerment, it just goes beyond. It goes above and beyond. I've never seen anything like this. I've been in locker rooms for approaching 30 years. I've never seen anything like this.
Oh, wow.
Having said that, I hope that it works.
Yeah.
I really do. I like Mike McDaniel. I like this team.
Yeah, there's something to be said for a happy locker room,
right,
but when
exactly.
the losses keep piling up,
Yeah.
where are the emotions then? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure they haven't given up at 1-3, but
Yeah, I just think that Mike McDaniel needs to be more of a jerk, for lack of a better term, to wring as much talent out of this team as he can. I'm not sure that there are reprisals when you do things like we saw Tyreek drop that pass and it turns out that it's a lateral and he doesn't pursue it aggressively and now it's a turnover because Tennessee gets on the ball.
Yeah.
And we see things like Devon Achane doing that with his helmet in Seattle late in the first half as his helmet flies off. He's casually chasing it. We've seen Julian Hill commit, 3 penalties in a game, and you wonder if there are reprisals. Is he so much of a player's coach that he doesn't crack the whip? He wants to be their friend as opposed to their boss. That's the things that you wonder about with Mike McDaniel and his approach.
And not all is lost here, obviously. After saying all this, they're only 1-3, two straight wins coming up here, and then Tua coming back. The season is not, all lost.
No, it's not. And as a matter of fact, I think what I'm thinking right now from my Wednesday column is that I do still have some slim playoff hopes for this team because I believe in the spirit of this team. I believe in the spirit of these players. They're not going to quit. As I've gone around the locker room talking to them, they're down, they're frustrated, and you can expect that because you're 1-3 and on this 3-game losing streak, but I don't think that they're ready to quit. I don't think that they've quit on Mike McDaniel. More importantly, I do think that this team still has some fight. And look, John, they've got so much talent on this team still, even without Tua, right? We know the list, right? Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, Jalen Ramsey,
They've
Devon
got to
Holland.
be able to figure it out with those guys.
You've got to be able to figure it out, John. And most of this is on Mike McDaniel.
All right. Some positive articles coming up from Chris Perkins. So read that in the Sun Sentinel and obviously listen to Perk all the time with either Dave Hyde or Dave Feronis on Deep Dive, which is a great podcast as well. Man, gotta love Perk. He is just killing it this season. And he's actually, I love the fact, though, he mentioned there's going to be a positive article coming up on Wednesday. You could probably check the Sun Sentinel for that.
You do got to appreciate the just him being real with it. Because, sometimes fans you just got to get the realness injected into you.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to be, of course you're going to be complaining and negative at this point in time, but I think most Dolphin fans can see all the talent on this team and that there is a way out of this. Yeah. One of the ways out of it, I think, needs to be a better run game.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, that was frustrating watching that on Monday, wasn't it?
Well, and I think, it's almost like cliche, but to have a good offense, you got to have a good run game. Sure, it's
and a good O-line to help. I mean, it wasn't all the O-line's fault, but but yeah, go on.
But I do think one of the things that frustrated me watching that game is I don't think they attacked the middle of the line enough on Monday.
Well, the interior O-line, I think that's a sign that they could be, they're a little weak. They don't trust it, you know what I mean? With everything with Teron Armstead out and everything shifted around, and it's tough.
I feel like on a 4th down and 1, when you got to have it and you go for a stretch play instead of just pushing it up the middle, I think it's almost like getting a little too cute. Is I feel like it's a very high probability of getting 1 yard compared to a stretch play that takes it out. So
you want to see a good old-fashioned tush push in there now and then, right?
Exactly. And I think when your offense is struggling as much as it is, to keep that momentum and the drive going, you got to go for it.
Here are the numbers. Just put on my old man glasses.
Here
are the numbers, Sonny boy.
Don't feel bad. I'll get there one day.
Oh yeah, you'll be there. Achane with 15 yards on the ground. Jalen Wright, the rookie, 32 yards.
Which he did have a couple nice runs.
Yeah, it was good to see him getting into the mix a little bit. Tyreek Hill had 19 yards. And
and that's one thing, too, is again, we saw a couple of the end arounds with Tyreek. coming from a Steelers fan, and you saw that with Matt Canada a lot.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of those on like third downs.
Yeah. I know. I see. Those are the things you're mentioning again that exasperated me about watching this game. Because why are we seeing plays like that when you're just trying to get
Keep it simple.
trying to get out of there with a win, dude? It's a soft part of the schedule. It's an 0-3 Titans team. They made the Titans look amazing, and so
almost like the 85 Bears up until the fourth quarter.
I know, it's crazy. And then so Snoop had that big run finally, and also he showed what he could do there. He had the one touchdown, and now it's going to be Huntley versus who? Our old buddy from Dwyer High School, who's played for every single. I got to check this. I think Jacoby Brissett has played for every single NFL team currently in existence. Is that true? Can we fact check that?
I can double check.
Yeah. Put it like a.
I feel like Josh Johnson.
Put a code, one of those codes in the corner, like the vice presidential debate.
He'll have a long resume. Yeah. Long resume.
No, but he has played. He's always the guy. The thing about Jacoby is he always goes to a team seemingly as the backup, and then he ends up being like the starter. Right. Like every time he was of course with
Indy,
the Dolphins.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So I think.
He's been demolished this year by his O-line, by the way.
Absolutely. And
how many hits has this guy taken, Jacoby Brissett? So, again,
I feel like it's almost like this Tennessee game. If you think there's going to be like high-level quarterback play, I think you might want to double-check that because, like you just said, the Patriots O-line, not great at all. Jacoby has taken a beating so far.
The Patriots, I think, have scored an average of 13 points a game this year so far. The Dolphins.
There you go. I got some stats for you.
Wait, let me finish this one, though. The Dolphins 11. The Dolphins 11. So offensively, they've both been futile.
Yeah. Oh, so right now, total offense, Patriots ranked dead last in the league, 238. Miami, 285, 26th.
Okay.
Total offense.
Yeah.
Not great, dude.
So if Snoop really can take a chunk out of this playbook, learn it better, step it up a notch, that's the window right there to finally get a win here without Tua Tagovailoa. And who do we have? Sam Sullivan is still in the show tonight, isn't he?
He is.
He kept him busy even though he's got the night off. So who's he got?
He's got Nicole Menner. She works for WJAR. Obviously covers the Patriots. So she has an in-depth insight of what to expect with this matchup.
I hope she has a really thick, like Boston accent.
Hey, you got my khakis?
Oh,
got the khakis?
That's awful. Let's throw to her.
Let's
Stop
just
it.
Toss to her. Toss to her.
Get rid of this.
What are some of the takeaways you had from this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we know the 49ers are a very talented team. So I think we knew going into it, especially a West Coast trip, that it would be tough for the Patriots. But they had 10 days of rest following their ugly Thursday Night Football loss to the Jets. So I think everyone had some hope that they would come out with just a little more urgency and be able to figure some things out and maybe look more like they did in the first two games of the season, where they kind of had this script they wanted to follow. They played much more competitive. And obviously we did not see that yesterday. I think obviously offense is the biggest storyline with this team, but it was also what was to be expected this year as they, really continue to rebuild on offense. I think defensively has been a bit of surprise, just seeing the amount of explosive plays they're giving up. The Niners are the top passing offense in the league, but I think the Patriots defense has been surprising because they're supposed to be the part of the team that keeps them in games. So all in all, just not a good showing. That's now 2 back-to-back ugly losses. So I think there's going to be a lot of reevaluating this week with this Patriots team. The benefit, of course, is that they now have 2 straight home games, and hopefully one of those, starting with the Dolphins, can go their way on Sunday.
And you talk about reevaluating. Do you think one of the things that they reevaluate is putting Drake May in as quarterback? Of course, it hasn't been all on Jacoby Brissett with these mistakes that have been happening and these tough losses, but do you think this is a time where they sort of switch gears and go to the guy that they drafted, very early on?
Well, that's the hottest topic right now surrounding this team. And I think it's no question fans are calling for that. Everyone wants to see Drake May out there. Even if it doesn't necessarily look better with the surrounding cast around him, maybe it gives them a jolt. But Gerard Mayo this morning said they are sticking with Jacoby Brissett. He's brought up this plan they have for Drake May's development. And he said again today they're sticking to the plan. So it will probably continue to be discussed for many more weeks. I don't know what their thinking is. I would assume at some point this season they will turn to Drake May, but is it something where it doesn't come until much later on when there's like 4 games left? This game was kind of the one that I think a lot of people had circled on their calendars. Week 5 at Gillette. Now you're looking at a Dolphins game without Tua. Obviously, Miami's struggling a little bit. So it kind of seemed like, okay, this would be the perfect scenario to put Drake May in. But Gerard Mayo this morning and after last night's game remaining adamant that they are not turning to Drake May yet. They want to continue to stick with Jacoby. Whether or not that's the right decision, I don't know.
And, when you look at this team, is there one thing or is it multiple things that sticks out to you where it's like, all right, these are some of the things that we need to fix in the now, stuff that can really be readjusted before going into this Dolphins game?
Yeah, I think it's multiple little things. And yesterday, at least with Jacoby Brissett in the first 3 games, he didn't have any turnovers. He was protecting the football, but I think it's only a matter of time. He's getting pressured, I think, on over half of his dropbacks. Again, the O-line has really been the biggest story aside from quarterback. So yesterday, it seemed like things just kind of unraveled with him. He threw a pick 6 that he'd be the first to admit was just a terrible decision. He had 3 fumbles. Ramondre Stevenson has now fumbled in 4 straight games. So I don't know if it's discipline with this team. It's definitely not lack of effort because you can see the fight that they're putting out on the field each week. But I think it just comes down to the fundamentals. At some point, maybe it gets a little mental too with the offense when, especially for Jacoby, he's taking a beating every single week. So I don't know. Again, the effort's there. It just seems to be lack of execution in the fundamentals that just are kind of lacking, especially over the last few weeks.
Coming into this game, what are some things that you like from the Patriots aspect going up against this Dolphins team?
Yeah, well, I'll go back to just the way we saw them play in the first 2 games of the season. Offensively, they followed the script of running the football, played turnover-free games. So if they can get back to that, especially in week 1, I go back to that game against the Bengals where they really were able to manage the clock. Jacoby Brissett did a great job of just managing all the game situations. And again, they focused on running the ball. We clearly know that this team is not really a passing threat. So if they can get back to that, then that's definitely something they can lean on this week. Again, they are dealing with more O-line injuries, so I have no idea what it will look like. This game was the 4th different one that we've seen this season already. It's been different each game. So that will play a huge factor. And then defensively, this defense has not looked up to standard. They are dealing with injuries, so that plays a factor. But I think if the defense can buckle down a little bit and the offense can give them an opportunity, or the offense can play a little bit better, and stop kind of putting so much on the defense, then maybe we see a more positive outcome for the Patriots this week.
And you talk about that Dolphins defense, of course, they have a very tough battle with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. There's a lot of playmakers on this Dolphins team. What do you think it's going to take for that defense to be able to shut down at least one of them, whether it's Hill or Waddle?
Well, Christian Gonzalez has actually played very, very well for the Patriots through 4 games. We see him always shadowing the team's top receiver, so I'm sure he'll be all over Tyreek Hill in this game. I'm trying to remember, I think last year he played pretty well when matching up with Hill, and I want to say Hill even had praise for Gonzalez after the game. Again, I have to double check that. But I would expect to see Gonzo shadowing Tyreek Hill probably the entire game. And then, someone else, of course, will have to shut down Waddle. They have a veteran defensive back like Jonathan Jones out there. So again, though, the Patriots have been letting up explosive plays. They have not been playing up to standard. So I think that's probably what they're focusing on most this week, is limiting those and, not letting quarterbacks scramble so much. We've seen a ton of that in the last few weeks. Even Aaron Rodgers had way too much time to move around. So I think there will be a lot of reevaluating on defense as well as the Patriots offense this week.
And as you brought up, this is now the start of a 2-game homestand for the Patriots. could be the start of momentum swinging in New England's way. What is your score prediction for this game?
Well, one, I'm excited to watch the Dolphins on Monday Night Football because I haven't had a chance to watch too much of them this season. I think it'll be low scoring. I think the Dolphins rank last in the league in points per game, and the Patriots are second to last. So I'm going to guess it will be a low scoring game. I'll go. Let's go 21 Patriots, Dolphins 17.
Okay.
That might be a little. It might not even be that high score.
Right. Yeah, it definitely has been pretty low scoring for both of these teams.
How many shots of Tua Tagovailoa did they show during that broadcast? Oh, you weren't watching the broadcast.
I think we
had a TV right there.
At the stadium, I think they showed him once, pregame, to try to get the crowd fired up, but then they saw the offense, and I was like, ooh.
No, on the TV broadcast, they showed Tua Tagovailoa more times, than he was like the Taylor Swift at a Chiefs game, going up there and seeing her reaction, everything. And I guess it came down to what a terrible game this ended up being. So all they could talk about was how Tua was gonna. Tua's
it was one of those things where
everything.
it was almost like a blowout, and the commentators, Joe Buck and Troy, or not. Sorry, it wasn't them.
Yeah.
But the commentators are trying to find something to talk about.
It's like a baseball game when it's a boring, and they're like,
oh yeah.
I was at the museum and I ran into Jose Bautista, and he was with his kid.
Oh yeah. Also, I just want the record to show for those betting fans out there.
Ooh. The just spread on, you're in there.
The spread on the Hard Rock app right now has the Patriots as 1-point favorites. The over-under. You want to take a quick guess?
Okay, so wait, they're 1-point favorites.
Patriots are 1-point favorites.
Yikes, that's sad enough right there. Okay, go ahead.
What's the quick guess on the over-under?
I'm going to say the over-under is 24.5.
Wow, that is real low, dude.
I don't know.
Hard Rock's at 36. Over under 36. Over under 36.
They're the two worst offenses. I'm not a big gambler.
Fair,
you know me. Yeah.
Last week, I think the over under I saw at one point was 34, and that hit the over. So
I called the Dolphins.
Courtesy of that last safety.
I said the Dolphins were going to win 100-0 against the Titans.
That is true.
That's how good my predictions are. Yeah.
Don't take gambling advice from this guy.
Definitely not. But let's look on the bright side here. Javon Holland, the great safety of the Miami Dolphins, was on that 2021 Dolphins team that started the season 1-7, I believe. And I think they finished 9-8. So they really, really got themselves out of that mess. And he was pondering that experience when we asked him about the predicament that the Dolphins are in right now.
I've been in this position before. I'm not necessarily shaken by it. I know the message is that everybody needs to stick together, and that's the biggest thing. That's what helped us in 21, and I think that's going to help us here. Everybody just relying on each other, trusting each other, and then just playing solid ball.
All right, so obviously no stranger to the predicament that the Dolphins are in.
Yeah, no, and he's another guy who doesn't pull any punches. Javon's the best, so he still believes, I still believe.
And as long as you have belief in the locker room, who's to tell you that they can't do it?
I did not sense in the locker room on Wednesday that this team had given up, and Mike McDaniel said that earlier this week. This is not a locker room that's going to give it up. They don't have it in them. I'm here with rookie Chop Robinson. I'm wondering what the mood is at practice this week. Everyone seems really positive that you guys can turn this thing around. I mean, 1-3. It's not great, but it's not the end of the world, right?
Just keep going, keep getting better, keep learning. That's how it is, one day at a time, one game at a time. Not try to overthink the future or worry about the future, just one game at a time, one day at a time.
What have you specifically learned over the first 4 games in the NFL? What's a work in progress, and what have you not even realized that you're going to experience that you are and working through it?
I mean, I learned a lot. It's definitely longer than the college games. It different changes up during the game. Like, teams can have so many points on the board and you can still come back and win the game. It's really different from college because it's just a battle throughout 60 minutes, 4 quarters. You're just battling 4 quarters, never give up, just keep going. That's what I learned the most.
You always hear people say the speed is different. Obviously, the athleticism is different across the board because you guys are all the very best. How are you sort of adjusting to that aspect?
I've been adjusting to it good. I feel like I've been adjusting to the speed and the guys that I'm going against, especially when I go out in practice, get to go against guys like T. Armstead and Patrick Poe. I get to go against them every day in practice, so it just makes the games a little bit easier.
Now, heading to New England, everything's a new experience for you. Of course, you've never played, I don't think you've ever played in that stadium before, right?
No, I haven't.
What do you think the game plan will be from a defensive perspective against them? They're struggling as well this year offensively.
I mean, the main thing for us is just like every game, stop the run, earn the right to pass rush. That's how we is. So once we stop the run, we get out there on third down. We just get to have fun. So that's our main thing, just stop the run.
Predictions. Let's do predictions.
All right, so you go first.
All right. I'm going to go 16-10 New England.
See, I'm not that crazy. That's only 1.5 points above my 24.5. Yeah, there you go.
All right, maybe if you lose money, just blame it on John Evans.
But you think the Patriots win?
I do. I know the Dolphins are winners 6 of their last 7. Mm-hmm. I just think it's different circumstances. I think being on the road, it might be a little bit difficult for Snoop, trying to get the ins and outs of the offense.
Yeah.
New England's running game, pretty good. I think they're 12th in the league. They average 126 yards a game. Antonio Gibson is going to start becoming more involved in the offense for the Pats. So
everyone taking score, you said
16-10. 16-10 New England.
All right. I think it's going to be low scoring, but not that low scoring, to be honest with you. I think, and call me an idiot. Let the slings and arrows come at me, but I think the Dolphins win this one 19-14. I think we're going to see there are going to be some significant defensive plays in this game, maybe even a pick 6 or something like that. But the offense, Snoop will take one more stride forward, and just enough so where the Dolphins can pull off a win, and hopefully they work off that momentum and get the season back on track.
Well, the one positive thing I will say before we wrap up, there are plays to be made. Because again, if you look back at the Titans game real quick, there were plays to be made. Obviously, the
there was a couple dropped interceptions too.
The Jalen Waddle drop. So I think if the Dolphins can capitalize on just those little mini things to clean up on, they have a chance. But I'm still taking my boy Jacoby. Let's go to Dwyer High School.
Oh, we love Jacoby Brissett, but I'll root against him this time. I'll root against him, of course, because this is best. This is not the best Florida sports podcast. It's best Florida sports podcast. It's like Smashing Pumpkins.
That's it.
You can't say the.
No.
Okay.
It's not like the Ohio State.
So you end it, Max.
All right.
You started it. You end it.
We appreciate everybody who listened to the podcast and obviously watched us for the show.
We love you all.
It's been a real blast, Johnny. I'm glad I could do this for
Thanks
you.
Thanks for filling in for Sam.
Absolutely. Hopefully I did well.
And Max is always here, so we'll see more of Max. Don't fret.
I'll sneak my way on here.
All right.
Everybody, anyway, enjoy the game. Hopefully I'm proven wrong. Evenson, hopefully his over/under hits. And if you lose money, just send us an email to the show. We'll make sure to read it out next week.
I'm not going on the betting app, though. You do that.
That's fine.
See you next week.
See you.
Best Florida Sports Podcast drops every Thursday morning. Listen on your favorite platform or watch on YouTube.